I guess the first one I'll start with is If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler by Italo Calvino. I don't know how to pronounce his name,
Oh, that's a
but
great book.
yeah, that holds the distinction of being one of the only, like, I guess you'd say, surrealist type books that I actually, like, seriously really enjoyed.
Yeah, I'd call it less surrealist and more postmodern because it's basically, I mean, yeah, it's a guy who's trying to find a book and he keeps finding other books, the beginnings of other books.
Yeah,
So and
it's a
there's a lot
hard
of
book to talk about. It's definitely one that has to be experienced.
yeah,
Uh,
because it is like we were talking about earlier, how postmodernism is very focused on language. This is a book about the experience of reading a book.
yeah. Okay, the next one I'll talk about is Night Film by Marisha Pessel. And we talked about that one, I think, on one of the first shows, but
Books about
yeah, books
movie
about movies,
conspiracies. Yeah.
yeah, movie conspiracies. This one definitely does that good. It kind of reminded me a lot of House of Leaves too, but it's let's see, okay, yeah, but it's been. I think I read that earlier in the year. Come up with things to say about it since I've read these books like so long ago. Should have thought about that, but
These books always have the legendary reclusive cult horror director. That's a consistent character in every one of these, you know.
yeah, I definitely had that Hills Run Red type vibe.
Mm. Oh, I love that movie, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie is good, but it was better than that because it gets into like really cultish type aspects. It was just awesome.
I think it's a really good book too. I expected it to be stranger than it was because I heard a lot of people compare it to House of Leaves, which not really. Like there's a bunch of like documents
Well,
and such in there, but there's not really any like a weird postmodern take.
well, there's not, but I would say that it's definitely got that kind of same aesthetic. Like there's just some way to group them. Uh, I don't know if you could put it down on a list, but there does seem to be like just, I would say it's purely aesthetic. The next book I'll talk about is The Outside by Ada Hoffman. And that earns the distinction for being the book that I thought I was just going to hate going into it. But it's spelled Hoffmann. Is that how you have it? Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I thought that one was going to be horrible going into it because I thought it was going to be super identity politicky, but it honestly wasn't. Like there were definitely a lot of like identity things at play, but they didn't have any basis in the story. But it's basically Lovecraftian slash science fictiony horror, and it blew my mind. It was very good. Yeah, the whole part there with the AI gods and all that was pretty awesome. But what?
I was gonna say it's kind of a funny coincidence that one of the stories in the People's Republic of Everything it has a story where H.P. Lovecraft is reborn as an AI. Uh, so that does seem to be something that a lot of like modern Lovecraftian types will do. Will mix
Yeah,
it with science fiction like
yeah.
that.
The cool part about it, which was a turn I didn't think it would take, is the whole gist of it. The heretics in this kind of a futuristic society would be the ones saying there's something kind of above the AI gods. I guess like literal real God, but it gets into really kind of creepy Lovecraftian angle on that. It's really cool. Uh, Now the next book I'm going to talk about is It may be my favorite I read this year, but Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. I know that one's been pretty popular. Yeah. That book was like exactly everything I wanted it to be and more. And I know I listed 2 Lovecraftian type books on here. I typically don't like Lovecraftian stuff, but this one, along with The Outside, really did the kind of old tired tropes justice.
Is this young adult?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that the main characters are kind of XPs of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
This definitely sounds interesting. I was a pretty big Scooby-Doo fan when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm like giant Scooby-Doo fan. Now,
I would have
I
gotten
guess
away with it too if it hadn't been for you meddling kids.
Yep.
And that
now, that's the only problem with the book. The dog does not play a big part in it, and it's actually there are 2 dogs. Because the first part of it takes place, when they're teenagers, and then the bulk of the novels when they're grown up. But the dang dog, when they're teenagers, dies, of course. And a dog that is related to that dog is the main dog through the bulk of the book, which is slightly depressing.
You should call the sequel "And That Dumb Dog," where it focuses entirely on the dog.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I guess I've got to say this book was better than that one, The Forever Children by Eric Flanders.
Oh yeah, you sent me a copy of this.
Yes, I was just like wowed by that book.
That's cool.
Yeah, the cover's amazing. But typically Zebra books are just not that good. They're normally horrible, but this is the one that, I would actually say deserves a place in some sort of horror canon, whatever that would be. But it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, I know that Lansdale's first novel was published by Zebra.
Yeah.
I think Edward Lee's first 2 books were published too, and he was writing under a pseudonym. But I recall him saying that his first novels with Zebra were awful, so I don't know.
Yeah, Zebra's got a reputation. I've been collecting them since high school, and their covers are always way better than what's inside, but this one's definitely the exception.
Yeah, I know that. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Which one was it that was published by Zebra? I think it was
the King Greenhall stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
the Devil Dog book.
Yeah, Devil Dog or Baxter.
Baxter by Ken Greenhall. I've not got that one. It's getting it was reissued by Valancourt, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good book. I'd highly recommend that one.
Yeah, I've only read Jessica, or not Jessica. What the heck was
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth,
yeah, you gave me a copy of that too. Apparently, Valancourt is going to be reissuing Let's Go Play at the Adamses.
Oh,
God help us all.
That one is cruel. So well written.
Yeah, it's a really great book, but oh boy, it's really fucking depressing.
She never had a chance to escape. That's the cruel part. It's like you would think she could get a rope loose or something, but even when she needs to use the bathroom, they diligently like tie another knot somewhere else on her arm, and then untie the other one and lead her in there by that. She's always in bondage, so they never give her the opportunity to slip loose or escape or anything. And originally she thinks it's just annoying that they're playing, and she just humors them for a while. And oh man, no, the stakes are so much higher in that book. It's so just horrifying how sociopathic those little devil children are in that book.
Yeah, the only variation to that story I've ever read was the Jack Ketchum one, The Girl Next Door,
which was based on a true story, and Let's Go Play at the Adamses was actually a riff on that same true story, I believe. Right?
Yeah, and it still pisses me off that the dang woman behind all that, the mother, like got out of jail after like 20 years or something. It may have been less than that. It's
That is
crazy.
What about the kids though?
Yeah, it's good. It's just a depressing case all the way around.
Are they still out there as adults? I wonder what they thought of that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next book I got is Life is Elsewhere by Milan Kundera.
Yeah, you actually sent me that one too.
Yeah, it's probably going to come up with the lame cover. The penguin cover is just something to behold. Can you bring like the editions? The one with the dog.
Yeah, the dog head one that looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which one?
I don't think it's either of those.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't need to get around to reading that one since you sent it to me. But I've heard a lot of good things about his other book, The Unbearable Lightness of Being.
There it is. It was right up there.
Where?
Yeah,
I think it was up one more.
Yeah, up.
Yeah, the one right above that. They're very top.
Up.
That no.
No, it was right above. Yeah,
right there. That one. No, you missed it. The one below that. What are you doing? Give me the mouse.
Okay.
Yes. Now, is that not the single best cover you've ever seen in your life?
Yeah. That actually reminds me of a book I read this year that almost made my list. Yeah. Lives of the Monster Dogs. But
that sounds cool. But yeah, Life is Elsewhere. It surprised me because I was I thought it was just going to be kind of a cheesy coming of age kind of rip off of a Portrait of the Artist as a young man type of thing. But it really wasn't. It was more about politics invading on art, which is a topic, of course, I delve deep into a lot. But I'd seriously recommend that one, especially for people who read the synopsis and like, we don't need more, coming of age artistic stuff. I mean, that one's actually pretty good.
This isn't about a talking dog, though, is it? That's just an impression of the story in that, right?
Yeah, it's not about talking dog, but that the dog thing does actually appear in the book in the form of paintings that the main character does. The next one's one that you and I have both read, Programmed to Kill by David McGowan. McGowan. Yes, I mean that one. Words can't describe how terrifying that book is.
I'm not sure how on board I am with the guy, and rest in peace to Mr. McGowan. But his other book, what is it?
Something about Canyon.
The Canyon with the musicians who all managed to evade the draft, and all their dads or uncles happened to be in some form of military intelligence, coincidentally enough. And nonfiction, by the way, to those wondering. So, no, we're not talking about a fiction story. I mean, it's David McGowan connecting the dots, following the trail of breadcrumbs,
Yeah, and bringing up stuff that's just freaking crazy. Like, what was the girl? Was it the Benet Ramsey?
JonBenet Ramsey.
Yeah, a thing I had never heard of was, and he brings that up in the book, is that like years after the case had kind of left the news, there was this like a bust at this dude's house where he had like a ton of child pornography, and lo and behold, there was pornography featuring her, which is just depressing. But that's a thing I had never heard of before, and it just kind of changes, people's perceptions of what happened. But yeah, he brings up some crazy stuff.
Yeah, that definitely does, because I know you're a lot younger than me, but in the 90s, like JonBenet Ramsey was like everywhere. You could not escape it, and everybody was certain that the parents did it. But that definitely puts a different spin on it.
I think the parents did it. Be honest.
Maybe the 911 call, they actually enhanced the audio, and at one point, the father says to someone just out of ear range, "We're not talking to you right now." And I think that it was an accident with the son, personally. I think that's who he was talking to. "We're not talking to you right now," because why else would he take such umbrage with someone trying to speak, over that 911 call,
Yeah, another thing about Program to Kill that really surprised me, because it's kind of like a trendy thing nowadays. You hear about, the satanic panic's kind of just like a joke, but he does a good job of showing like the real crimes that kind of either started people thinking along those lines, or the ones that people didn't even know of. And it's almost hard to believe this stuff is real, but when you kind of look it up and find that it is real, as I've said like 10 times, it's freaking horrifying. Did you have the same reaction when you read that book? Like, you're just like, oh my God, this has been going on. And
yes, but I don't believe that every serial killer was, trained and conditioned under MK Ultra. I mean, it would be difficult to try to debunk MK Ultra when there are documents and court transcripts confirming its existence. But I don't believe that every serial killer who has ever been successful or active at any time was a result of that project. I feel like that's what he's suggesting at times.
Well, at times he's suggesting that, but it seems like the biggest gist of what he's saying is that at the very least, the main ones that we know about were kind of either connected or part of definitely part of groups, not working as just like lone wolves.
It does make you wonder. Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy both had, like you said, connections. I think,
and the Manson thing showing up, like Manson's involvement with cults, and just how he was able to successfully manipulate these people's minds, kind of hints that he was kind of shown how to do it. But that's just a freaking awesome book.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And there's actually like 100-part YouTube video series, which is actually what led me to Program to Kill, the book, of people, taking that research and applying it to newer, killers after this book was written. And
if I'm not mistaken, the guest we're going to have on next week, William Ramsey, is either a really big fan of David McGowan, or he had actually worked with him on something. It's going to be pretty cool to pick his brain about that.
Yeah, and that was your choice for next week, and he is still passionately attached to the idea that the West Memphis Three were guilty, and that they set three child killers free, because Pearl Jam, I guess, demanded it, is his take, right? It will be interesting to talk to him about it.
Okay, the next book I'll talk about is Final Events by Nick Redfern. And I don't even want to talk about that. People just need to read the book. I mean, it's freaking awesome.
That's a pretty suggestive title.
Yeah. I just now realized that the dang nuke cloud in the back is the clown thing. The popular like if you color it in, it's the clown face.
I think but I think that clown face actually is just a picture of a mushroom cloud colored to look like a clown.
Yeah.
Right.
It's iconic nevertheless. Yeah. Do you see it?
I would say the artist probably meant that or wanted to, hint at that. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of surprised that Nick Redfern is on Ancient Aliens that much, given that, his take on the whole, I guess, modern day alien phenomenon is that it's more related to fallen angels and demonic influences trying to push a kind of world religion as opposed to being literal flesh and blood extraterrestrials. And he's definitely those theories would be at odds with the Ancient Aliens crowd who were like, strict materialists. I'm kind of surprised he's on there. That TV show as much as he is. Mm-hmm. Does he ever talk about that? I know you've watched that show more than I have.
Ancient Aliens, I actually haven't watched that much of it. No. But I hear him on, he gives interviews occasionally on Coast to Coast AM, which I listen to on the ride to work. And I thought that he was mainly into cryptozoology. I didn't know that he spent much time on UFOs.
Yeah, and the Black-Eyed Children. He's probably, next to that one dude who kind of started it, he's kind of the biggest.
David Weatherly.
Yeah, David Weatherly.
The Black-Eyed Children is a fascinating subject. It would be interesting to see if anyone who claims to have let one of these kids in, if they're healthy, all these years later. I think that that's a really cool creepypasta, a nice urban legend for the, post 2000, generation. But I don't know how much stock I put in it, but I don't want people to debunk the Black-Eyed Children because it's the most enchanting, fascinating urban legend going.
The creepiest ones are the ones that they take from old newspapers, like way pre-internet, and they're
true,
they're more horrifying than anything that's modern. Mm-hmm. But another book, this actually wasn't on my list, but if people are interested in final events, and of course my thoughts on the whole alien things, that it's all demonic fallen angels. But another good book to read is Beyond Science Fiction by Jim Wilhelmsen.
You've recommended this one to me several times.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. The only reason I didn't include it on my list is because there's some things in it that I'm definitely not on board with. Like
this guy's an ordained minister.
Yeah.
And he was in a Christian motorcycle club.
Something like that.
And a member of MUFON. Jeez.
And he owned a freaking thing in Roswell, if I'm not mistaken.
Co-founder of PAPSI, Paranormal and Alien Abduction Problem Solvers International.
Yeah, we should be getting him on somewhat soon. I converse with him regularly, or semi-regularly. Yeah.
You think we should? Okay.
Yeah.
Sometime in January, maybe, near the end of the month. Maybe we ought to get on like a rotating schedule, like 1 week Ben picks one, next week you pick one, next week I pick one, and then a wild card where whoever has an extra idea or,
I still think we need to open ourselves up to trolls too.
Oh, I'm open to most kinds of trolling, except for O'Brien. That's the only one that I wouldn't have on because he made it personal in a way that, I can never forgive. But other than that, I want to hear people argue on this show. The problem is that a lot of them are, a lot of people, are that I could see arguing on here. They're not thick-skinned enough to.
Sometimes trolls are just plain annoying. I typically like them, but some of them, it's just, especially a lot of the debate me, bruh, YouTube people, I can't stand that.
I'm not all about moderation on arguments because
hell, the ones who don't debate that just freaking talk over people, they're more annoying.
No, but like I've told you before, I actually like that kind of arguing where they'll talk over each other and it's like they almost harmonize in a really weird way. And it's like it builds, it's like my anti-ASMR. I don't know how else to explain it. I love to hear people shout over each other. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with talk radio, I guess. Being rude to callers, hanging up on them, and not letting them finish. It's like at first I hated it, and then I fell in love with it, and then it carried over to the more extreme ends of YouTube, where I listen to people like Tonka Saw and Andy Worski, where those are the most extreme examples I know of this kind of thing. It became a term called internet blood sports, and I love that shit. I just don't
I
know.
think it can be entertaining, but the only thing is, if you're like really into the topic and wanting to learn, it can really kind of push that kind of whoever's the loudest and I guess more skilled in verbal debate is going to, steer your opinion one way or the other.
Hang on.
You know that clip of a bunch of people on Worski's show just arguing over each other to the point you can't understand what anyone is saying.
I know, I love it.
And Worski just takes a lighter and burns his nipple.
That was magical.
I'm just watching whenever I see that clip and I'm watching Worski, and I was just like, yeah, he made the completely logical decision right there.
Okay, the next book I'll talk about. Talked about that one. Oh, Spawn by Sean Hudson. Now this one, I mean, wow, it is freaking. If you're into just kind of crazy horror, completely trashy, it's the best. You can't get better than Spawn.
By who?
Sean Hudson is.
Yes, he wrote
Slugs. Now I hate Slugs. I was actually really hesitant to read this one.
I also liked Assassins by this author. I think.
Hey, you just click back. You just click past the freaking worst novel I read this year.
What's that?
Go back. Well, it was there. Yeah, there. Nightstone.
What's wrong with that one?
I think I talked about that. Yeah. Oh God, it was a horrible book.
You said that the characters were mediocre, right?
Everything about that book was mediocre. The thing is, it was 600 pages of absolutely nothing. But click on the cool cover of Spawn with the baby.
I remember seeing that in Paperbacks from Hell. You read that, didn't you, Ben?
Yeah,
I remember that cover.
Yeah, it's just
Paperbacks from Hell was awesome.
Yeah,
well put together. I mean, it gives you an overview of all that good stuff.
Me.
Whatever.
You said that the same guy wrote Slugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the cover for that with the guy with the slugs around his neck and like everything.
Yeah, like half of his skeleton. It's freaking awesome. I need to watch the movie. I see it on Prime all the time.
It's not that great.
Yeah. I hated the book though. I mean, I might read Breeding Ground. I have it, the sequel, but Spawn is just like it blew me away. It completely redeemed him in my mind. We should do a show about Paperbacks from Hell because I wasn't really too keen on it.
Oh, Grady Hendrix had agreed to come on, but that was before I went in. I took my last little break from the show. That was last summer, I think. So I could probably get him to come on sometime. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually really like his book, Horror Store. That's a pretty cool book.
He also wrote The Exorcist books, the books about My Best Friend's Exorcism and Exorcist Falls, I think.
No, that's Jonathan Jans.
Oh, okay. My Best Friend's Exorcism, though, right?
Yeah, My Best Friend's Exorcism and his new one about a rock band. I can't remember what that's called.
It's called We Sold Our Souls.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay, the next book, and this one also really surprised me. The Pond by Simon Lawrence. Simon Lawrence is a pseudonym. It might not. Yeah, that's it. The real author is R. Carl Largent. But
not much to see on the cover, is it?
Well, it is. It doesn't show up that cool there or that good there. It's kind of like a skeleton coming out of a. Yeah, it looks better there. It looks cooler in person.
Is it like one of those holographic covers?
No, it's just what's the word for it? Embossed, I think.
Oh, embossed, yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking of.
A novel of ecological madness and unthinkable horror.
I was super surprised about this one because R. Carl Largent's other books are really generic, and this one just wasn't. It didn't feel like it was written by the same author. It felt more like a splatter punkish type thing than a kind of can't really come up with a good word for it. He writes a lot of like military thrillers, so they kind of have that. I don't know a better way to describe it other than he just has a generic streak. This one, that's completely lacking, and it's freaking awesome.
There's a lot of 2 and 3 star reviews. Yeah,
it's a weird one. I can see that it gets that, but it's really odd. And I guess that's the reason I really liked it. His other book, what was it? The Lake. The Lake is the first thing I read by him. His name's actually R. Carl Largent, so I don't know if it'll.
So how did you enjoy the follow-ups? The River, the Creek, and the Shallows?
No, the Lake was pretty good. The Lake and Black Death. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that from Paperbacks from Hell.
Look at the scale of that thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That cover just rules. How many books do I have left on here? Talked about that one. Okay, I guess next one is a Tropic of Cancer by Henry Miller.
That's a classic, right? That's in the canon, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was freaking. I was pretty blown away by that one.
Well, I've had it about. I've never heard.
No, boobs were gonna get demonetized.
I've never heard a synopsis of. I mean, if that episode with Jennifer is still up, I mean, how we're never monetized. So
yeah, I'm just kidding. But see if you can find if they have that cover that's actually like a giant crab on top of a globe with a woman in it in his claw.
I've never seen.
Oh, because cancer.
Yeah, that's like a strange cover. It makes it look like a horror novel or something.
Is that it?
And no, and it does have like the band on it. It says something like not for import into the United States and England or something like that, because at the time it was like banned in the US and England.
That isn't it. No, that's not a crab.
No. I think it's like one of the very first editions of it. You might have to Google it. It might not be in there.
God.
Yeah.
I can't imagine listening to that as this book is an audiobook.
I can't imagine that either. It'd be a weird one to listen to because I can't imagine it like any in any voice but like I don't know, I guess Henry Miller himself.
Is that it?
Was that audiobook in English?
No, that's not it. Let me see if I can find it on Google.
That's not a crab. It's a lobster.
Cribs and Vendor Kids.
Clearly a German edition or something.
It is sort of hard to describe the plot. It's not really plot heavy, but it's definitely theme heavy. It's very, very, very dense. To the point.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, type it in.
Yeah, go to Google Images to find it. It's the first one that comes up.
Okay, now what am I supposed to see? It looks like they've got a woman in there in its jaws, right?
Yeah.
It took me a minute. Okay.
Yeah, that cover is just great.
It registers on a subliminal level first. It's like you're seeing something unnatural, but you don't know what. You got to really look.
Yeah, and like at
the
bottom
maybe that's
there,
just me. I don't.
Yeah, and at the bottom there it says something like not for import into Great Britain or USA because at the time the book was banned in those countries.
So I mean, I'm trying to understand though what made it so controversial. It was published in the 30s. Well, everything was controversial then. I mean, wedlock. Sex out of wedlock was controversial back then. So I mean,
you see, that's the one thing, the theme that I didn't really pick up on. Like, I mean, maybe it's there, and I just kind of glossed over it. To me, it didn't seem like some kind of cheesy sexual liberation crap. It seemed more like these characters are just completely lost, and that's the only way to pass time while I guess industrialization and just the mass marketization of culture is moving forward, and they're kind of like left behind. It's just freaking awesome.
Yeah, I recall at one point someone asked Henry Miller, why he writes so much about sex, and he's just like, well, I just write about life, and sex is a part of that.
Okay, the
Norman
next
Mailer
one
called it one of the 10 or 20 great novels of our century. Go ahead.
Okay, talked about that one.
I think I definitely need to reread this at some point. I don't think I was like in the right mind state when I first read it because I don't remember much from it.
Now, he also wrote Tropic of Capricorn, right?
Yeah, I think that's the sequel to it.
Okay.
Good. The next one is Blackheart Boys Choir by Curtis M. Lawson. This one, I mean, it was definitely took me aback. I'm surprised that it got the attention it did, in the sense that people didn't completely bash it, because it's not, it doesn't follow the typical small press horror political guidelines.
The unicorn actually looks sinister. That's amazing.
Yeah, the unicorn is sinister. It's a unicorn demon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
but it was kind of similar to like, well, I can't really say because I haven't seen the Joker, but it's that same type of theme that I've heard people ascribe to the Joker. Like, these boys, they're kind of like ostracized by this SJW society, and they're getting bad influences are acting on them in the void of, I guess, a masculine role model in their life. It was awesome.
A song that holds terrible power. Is this a book or a comic book?
Book.
Okay.
It's a novel.
I thought Curtis Lawson did comics too.
I think he does novels and comics.
Okay.
Yeah. I wrote it. Apparently, my review of the book made him cry. He told me that in person.
Huh. That's really nice.
Yeah.
St. Joshi does the forward. That's pretty interesting.
Boy, it's hard to get any praise out of that guy.
Yeah, I remember the article he did where he just like completely tears apart everything that Brian Keene did.
I loved that article. You had a show about that once, didn't you, Jeremy?
Yeah. See, the thing is that I actually like Keene's work a bit more than Joshi did, but I think it was good for building Keene's character, because he is spoiled by the community, and in which he inhabits. They give themselves over to his every whim, and I think that it's good for him to have critics like Joshi or Yoshi. I think he said is the pronunciation. It's good for him to not be praised all the time, because now he uses that influence to malign people that will never reach his sphere of influence, and that is wrong to me, if you ask me. So,
and to be honest, I've read a ton of his stuff. The only book that I actually liked was the Conqueror Worms. Everything else I really
Earthworm Gods.
Yeah,
that's my favorite. Yeah. What were you going to say, Ben?
I was going to say I actually agree with you. I think negative reviews are important. I think authors should be, if they shouldn't like take every single one to heart, but they should definitely be listened to on some level. Because I
loved how Keene's response to it wasn't. He said that he wasn't bashing Joshi for talking negatively about his work. He was bashing him because Joshi attacked his fans, and now it's personal. Like that, it was just completely lame.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I remember what's his name, Chuck Wendig or something like that. He went on this like Twitter rant where he just said in like the most whiny, entitled way that I never want to see negative reviews. I don't care. I don't like them. Blah, blah, blah. It was like he just sounded like the biggest whiny bitch ever.
The guy who created Bane, right? No, that was a different Chuck. Okay.
Chuck Wendig. No, he was like a guy who's done like some Star Wars novels. He's he did some comic writing. He ended
That's
up,
a snowflake right there.
Yeah,
Chuck is an annoying name.
He's an ass. He was one of those. He was like definitely one of those like people with Trump derangement syndrome, constantly tweeting about how evil anyone who voted for Trump was, and eventually it got him fired.
Yeah, Stephen King has first degree Trump derangement syndrome. It's really sad to see an author of his stature just completely disintegrate before our eyes.
It's sad to see how many people literally worship him in just a freaking creepy way.
I'm telling you that Stephen King is better than tweeting all day about anyone in politics. I'm serious. He is better than that, but he isn't acting like it. It's a shame. Yeah. Same guy that wrote the Dark Tower series and made meta like acceptable. I'm convinced it started with him. But
now the next book, I wasn't gonna put it on my list. I read it recently, like after I made the list. Chop Shop by Andrew Post, I believe is his name. Yeah. Now, going into it, I thought it was a horror novel, but it's more of a crime thing, kind of like a small town, gritty type crime. Just very highly recommend it.
That's it? You just highly recommend
it? Yeah, I don't have much to say about it other than that.
Business partners and roommates of the Hawthorne Funeral Home are drowning in debt. People are complaining about the makeup jobs they're giving deceased loved ones. The word clownish has been used, and both young women have little trouble keeping their partying habits in line. They start selling body parts in the black market.
It's actually less about that. Like those characters are definitely central, but the main character is really the dude supplying their one body that they illegally use.
What brought you to this one?
My friend actually sent it to me. I trade books with people a lot. It's one of those new, what is it? One of the new Flame Tree books. And they send out like a ton of freaking review copies. Like, I think they just send them out to anyone. But my friend had one. That's how I read it.
Where do you get them? NetGalley or what?
Yeah, I get them on NetGalley too. But this was an actual physical book.
Do you go to NetGalley, Ben, for yours or what?
I don't. I've actually intended to sign up for there, but for some reason I just never got around to it.
I'm not doing it anymore. I'm tired of getting freaking emails from people like, "We give you our book. Why have you not given a review?" And I'm like,
"Oh
man, I hate that."
I don't blame them for asking. It's just I hate being in that position where
you have to read it. Yeah.
No, not even that. Just that. Because of life circumstances and because I'm a slow reader, that I actually usually end up letting them down, and I don't ever want to be in that position again. And I want to start books voluntarily and finish them voluntarily. I don't ever want to be put in that position where I can let someone down who's depending on some kind of feedback from me. As slow as I read, it's nah.
Yeah, I'm sure these two would have ended up on my list had I finished them. I'm still reading them currently, but I'm doing kind of a Jim Goad binge. I don't know, I can't freaking talk. With the Redneck Manifesto side by side with the Answer Me omnibus that Nine Banded Books put out that has all four of the original magazines.
Yeah, that's a pretty great collection,
including the rape board game.
Yeah, I can't. I can't find anyone to play that with. I'd lose friends.
You won't believe me. My girlfriend actually played it with me one time.
Okay, now you're gonna have to tell me what the rape board game is exactly.
It's this really simple board game. That's. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
I don't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, one of the players is a is a rapist and the other is a victim, and you just follow the board to try to. The victim has to keep from getting raped while the rapist has to rape her.
It's real funny. It's like she has to get to her like a modern apartment or something and lock the door. It's hilarious.
It's one of the most tasteless things ever. The whole rape issue is one of the most tasteless things ever.
I've got to finish that now. Oh my God. Jim Goad is hysterical, and he just goes to show that you can fight the enemy while still not losing your sense of humor.
Yeah, I mean, he's got stuff in that issue. Like one of the articles is called "Let's Hear It for Violence Against Women."
There are some skeletons in his closet that I would not be proud of if I were him. He chalks it up to self-defense. He chalks it up to self-defense and post-traumatic stress disorder. I say that PTSD is a crutch that the left tends to rely on too much when they're not even war veterans, and or cases of severe abuse. However, I think that is just a dark thing from his past that he is accountable for. I wasn't there, so I don't know, but I think he attacked his girlfriend after he claimed that she attacked him first. I don't know all the specifics. I don't remember, but he claimed to suffer from PTSD from when he was in his mother's womb. And that's why he attacked his girlfriend in self-defense. I don't know, but he's a funny author. I like his books. That's the bottom line. So,
well, I actually have heard the voicemails that the woman who he beat up were, and she was insane.
Really? Okay.
Who was it? Was it his like? Nah, I can't remember. I've listened to a lot of his podcasts. I've kind of stopped listening to them because they got seem to be more in line with they're just kind of catering to like the people who send them money, like wanting shout outs and stuff. But have you listened to it that much, Jeremy?
Listen to what? An audio book of Jim Goad or what?
No, his podcast, the Jim Goad's Group Hug.
I heard when he was on Gavin McInnes's old podcast, and that's where he went into the domestic assault charge. I think he actually did a stretch of time, in prison over that, even regardless of whose fault it was. And that was interesting. And let's see, I also heard him get into a 5-hour shouting match with Matt. You probably know Ben, the guy, Matt.
Matt Forney and Davis Arini.
Yeah, that was entertaining because he ended up branding Matt Forney as a rapist of Ann Sturzinger during that whole thing. No. And then Ann Sturzinger came on to semi-confirm and also say she didn't remember. I got mixed signals from that show, I got to say. He really just did it to one-up Matt Forney in their argument they were having. Go ahead.
What happened was Ann Sturzinger had been raped in her apartment by a homeless guy. Jim Goad brought that up. Matt Forney, claimed it was that he was lying, and Sturzinger came on and confirmed it. And the whole thing was just fucking ugly and depressing. Since especially I'm friends with Ann Sturzinger.
Well, no, Goad said that Matt Forney was the one who raped her. Based on Matt Forney's own words.
Well, yeah, based on his words, but the at least according to Ann Sturzinger, apparently Forney had been claiming they were in a relationship when they never were. So I don't know what the story behind that
Who
is.
the hell knows, man? That's some major mixed signals on every level right there.
Are all these people authors or just like political commentators?
Well, yeah, Jim Goad is, Ann Sturzinger is. Matt Forney, I guess you can call him an author, but he
does a bunch of shitty pickup book shit.
That's all. He lives in the Philippines. probably so he can date younger women, I'm guessing. And he basically wrote one pickup artist book and some political commentary articles for, what was it? Roosh V's website. What was it?
Return of Kings. I think.
Yes. Yeah.
But I did one of the funny things. He used to have a blog called In Malafide or something like that, and they released like a best of book. When he wrote that blog, he wrote it under the name. It was the name of the protagonist from Journey to the End of Night, Ferdinand Barmo, or something like that. And he reviewed that book under under his real name, and then called himself like the Andy Warhol of the alt-right or some stupid shit like that. Matt Flynn is kind of an idiot.
Anybody who says that is not the Andy Warhol of their movement, who openly proclaims it. You have to earn those titles. Someone else has to foist them upon you. But was that the last one, Zach, or do you have more? Or?
Yeah, it's the last one.
Okay.
I've got more, but it would take too long.
Well, no. If you got more, I don't care.
Well, that entails coming up with a list, and I'm too lazy for that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start with, and it took several